All right. Good afternoon, everybody. I am so glad to have you here. I definitely want to have you meet and share with some time with a very special person to me, a good friend, a brother beloved. But most of all, I want you to know that what this man is going to share today is it's personal, but it's historical. It's a matter of personal perspective, but it also sheds some light on some things that we would know culturally. So without further ado, I want to introduce the man of the hour, Dr. Jose Villareal. My bad, Jose Manuel.
Hey man, hi, Jackson. How are you?
I'm good.
Where's the audience? They can see us talk, huh?
Yeah. It's actually both YouTube and Facebook, and so we're just gonna roll. I got some people that are gonna pop in some chat questions, but right now, I just want to get started. We know not only that you're the assistant superintendent for Epiphany Prep Charter School at Escondido, but you're also on the board of Encuentros, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And so with that, we can definitely say you're involved with the community at the least, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So I just want to take a little bit of your time today. Could you tell us about your upbringing and how Cesar Chavez fits into the picture of your upbringing?
Yeah. So, well, sorry I'm late, everybody. I was out delivering food. Luckily, I was just right along and falling asleep on the passenger side this time for the first time to about almost 70 families. So I arrived right late. So, listen, my father, he ran with Cesar Chavez. I mean, he was side by side with him. And I don't think I ever shared with you this, Bruce, but if you just literally Google my father's name and put in Blythe, you'll see a court document where he was deposed for creating union-like conditions in farm areas of Blythe.
Wow.
And, my mother was also a farm worker, and my father just raised me in the way that he knew to have a voice. He said, speak up when you need to speak up. And so that's what I've been doing my whole life. I grew up in a small town of Blythe. It's a farm worker town back then. Now you got 2 prisons next to it.
Yeah.
It's still a struggling little town, but there's still life there. It's 4 hours away on the way to Arizona. It's the last city right before Arizona hits at the border there. And, I grew up there, went to high school there, and was a farm worker myself. My parents taught me that. They said, you got to be out here in the field so then you can never come back.
Yeah, that's what got my dad to college.
There you go.
Working in the field in Blythe was like, I don't want to go back. Yeah,
no doubt.
Yeah, so that's a court document with your dad involved in it.
Yeah, I just looked him up the other day, and I was like, "Is it still out there?" And it's still out there, man. It's crazy. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, I just I know it's. I just literally looked it up.
And there it is. You can share your screen if you want to.
There it is. I think I'm going to. So let me share this screen real quick.
Okay.
Let me see. Share screen. Okay, it might be a bug here. Let me see. Yeah, it'll be this one. And you look for it first. There it is. Go back here. Yeah, so this one was against a rancher in Blythe. Arcalian Farms was the name. So let me see tell me if you see this document. Do you see a document on your screen by chance?
Yeah, I'm gonna add it right now. Boom. There you go.
Okay. You see it?
Yeah.
So this was 1978. And here you see the United Farm Worker which is the Cesar Chavez Union charging party, right? So it was the Arcalian Farms and charging party, right? This was an agricultural labor board relations. There was a decision in 1978. This is historical information. Law Office of Marin issued an attached decision in this proceeding. Therefore, charging party and general counsel each filed timely. Let me just go ahead and look for Jose. You know what? It might be under his middle name. There it is. Boom.
Wow.
Offered to reinstate Andres and Macario and make them whole for any losses in pay and other economic losses they may have suffered the results of discriminatory layoff in 77. Says here, when we laid them off, failed to reinstate them and hired other workers in their place on account of their pro-union sentiments.
Pro-union.
Right there, getting fired because he was pro-union. Man, oh man. And then right here, this is a good one right here. Farman Moore, a farm worker for 34 years, worked seasonally at Arcalian Farms in 68 and permanently for the company for the last 2 years. Although he was not present during the union election, when he returned to work in 77 after an illness, he did display for 2 or 3 weeks a union button, which he got from my father.
Wow.
And then right here it says, my father testified that he worked with Arcalian Farms in 58 to 59 and has done all kinds of irrigation work in Blythe. He started as a permanent worker with the company in April or May, beginning November 76. By the way, I was born in 74. I was a 2-year-old child here. Villareal participated in union organizing activities. Here we go. Villareal participated in union organizing activities, signing and helping others to complete authorization cards, wearing and passing out buttons, and displaying a union bumper sticker on his car. At one time, he asked Diego Laredo to sign a union authorization card, but was told that it was not convenient for him to sign it. On another occasion, Laredo, with whom Villareal had been a good friend, told Villareal he must be crazy for joining the union. Bruce, I have not read this in forever, so I completely forgot about this. That Villareal would lose many things. Laredo also pointed out that he could fire Villareal, and that because Villareal was so involved with the union, it would not be possible for Laredo to talk with him very much anymore. Laredo sought Villareal out at his brother-in-law's house and told him that he had bad news. He was a shoveler and tractor driver, and Villareal was also laid off. Wow. All right. Wow. So
that's a lot.
Remember we talked about buttons?
Yeah.
Remember we talked about buttons?
What you got for us?
Let me show you these buttons. Speaking of which, there's my father's UFW flag with those buttons.
Look at that.
It's the original flag. You see how it's spray painted on?
Yeah.
And you see there's buttons next to it. And all of these buttons, each one represents a win for the union against what you just read on this Agricultural Relations Board document.
Hold on.
There it is. There it is. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get kind of close here. You can probably see where right here is vote. You see that right there? Says vote, UFW, no grapes. It's Viva la Huelga, live long the strikes, no grapes, right there. It's every button was a win, was what my father said. So you'll see, maybe if I pushed it further in, you'll see things like Coors Light, which is the beer they boycotted as well, lettuce, vote to VFW. So you got all these buttons. This is one of the original flags. Now you see, unfortunately, my father, loving to death, you see that blue along the edge? He took that down across the border and said, hey, can you restore this for me? And I said, Dad, why did you have him put glue on it? He goes, well, because it was literally in a bag this whole time. And before his passing, I want to say a couple years before, and this thing's the heaviest thing you could imagine, like old school. I don't even understand it. So I got to find a way to preserve this cloth and make it whole again with that glue taken away from it.
Well, I mean, you better be careful because I think the Cesar Chavez Foundation will try to get it from you
That's a good point.
if you bring it up too much. I mean,
that's a really good point.
That's a beauty. And I mean,
my father said, Mr. Jackson, that there was blood on this flag when they were hit with bottles by the police officers or sticks. And he said he knows there was because there was people that were injured during those strikes. Just so you know. So I had never brought that document up publicly before. So I appreciate you giving me this opportunity and reminded me as I sat here thinking about the story. And there you go.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah, man.
Hey, this is something else. I just want to know within that, and your dad being with Cesar Chavez, what was it like for you as a kid seeing that?
Well, I didn't understand it. I didn't know what it really was. I mean, I don't know if you've heard of Dolores Huerta.
Yes,
Dolores
indeed.
Huerta was one of the pioneer women who was alongside Cesar Chavez. They were kind of a tandem.
Yes.
And she was at my house, man. My mom and dad. When hold
up, man. Wait a minute. See, this is something else. Now, after all this time, now you're gonna start telling me this?
Yes.
Go ahead. Let us know.
At my house, I was probably 4 or 5 years old. I remember a crowd of people. That's all I remember. I don't remember anything else. They had put a costume on her to make it seem like she was the what they would call la patrona on the field. So she would infiltrate the field and then pull the workers off. And my mom and dad got her on that field, pulled the workers off, and shut that field down because what was going on in Blythe was the crops were always sprayed by a plane. They were sprayed for pesticides and all those things. Well, in order to save money and time, the workers would be working and they'd spray at the same time.
Oh, wait.
And they'd be spraying the workers. And they caught wind and they said, no mas. And so they started shutting it down. And you see what happened with Arcadian Farms and you see 1976.
Yeah.
And so imagine this 55, when was the civil rights pass?
Wow.
Was it? Well, I can't remember.
It was the mid-60s.
It was 60s. So we're in the midst of it in a small town where no one's going to find out. There was no internet, no satellite, nothing to really be understood other than word of mouth. And, my father, he ended up organizing a march to come to have Cesar Chavez come to the Catholic Church and then march on what would have been I got a picture of him right now. I was just looking at it this weekend. And then if you give me a second, I know I got it somewhere around here.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I'd love to pull it out and show it to all of you. Let's see here. Let me copy this.
So it was deemed illegal to be in a union?
It was deemed illegal to be in a union, and you couldn't organize, man. You couldn't. That wasn't something you could do. So let me go ahead and share this screen. Can you see this actually or no?
Let me share it for you.
Can you see it or no?
Boom.
You see the picture?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Ooh.
You got it?
Can you see a picture?
Yeah. The tall man, the Chavez in the poncho.
That's my pop right there, man. That's him.
Wow.
That's Jose Macario Villareal kicking it with Cesar. Man, you know what? Give me a second. I think I got some in the garage. You got me looking at my archives, man. Give me a second.
All right. So while Dr. V gets that, this is a piece of history that we definitely want to let everybody know that here it is. His dad, with Dolores Huerta, Cesar Chavez, the boycotts, You know, this is definitely a piece of history. And you saw the flag. And so that right there lets you know. Here we go.
So here, right here, let me try to get to it a little bit. Right here, there's my father, and there's Cesar. So you see my pop. This is ripped because this was an article in the local paper, and this is in front of what we used to be called Albertsons Shopping Center, one of the main thoroughfares in Blythe. And there's my pop after mass, walking with Cesar right there next to him in the glasses. That's Cesar Chavez. So you can see he's much older. My dad made this, you could tell.
So this is after the Catholic mass that they attended.
So that may have been like 80s. I still can't hunt that picture down. It's in the newspaper in the local town. I don't know where it is, but that was my pop walking with him, getting coached up about how to take it to the next level.
All right.
Eventually, my father just kind of grew out of it. You know, he got himself. The ranchers started listening. They started doing what they're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And Cesar passed away.
Yeah.
And then, my father kept working and kept voicing his concerns. And then he retired. And then 4 years ago, he passed away. So,
yeah.
And
so what about the grape boycott? What do you remember about the grape boycott? Because I remember the whole thing about don't eat the grapes.
Yeah, the grapes, it was really about making sure that it was, and look, man, it was about unions. It was, look, if grapes come out of union farms, that means that workers have rights. Workers have a place to go to the restroom. They get to eat. They're not sprayed on by pesticides. So support the UFW grapes sponsored farmers and boycott grapes that are not. And so when they boycott grapes, it was there was no unions that were tied at that time to grapes fields, and so they said, well, boycott it all. And then they wanted to boycott lettuce for the same premise.
Yeah,
they were coming out of ranches that didn't support the union, mistreating laborers, no breaks. The pay was low, and so the whole premise was, we're going to get you to unionize because that means you respect our workers. And until you do so, we're going to boycott your product. And I'll tell you what, it worked. It worked. Just like you see today, whenever some artist starts to get canceled, by sponsors, television, radio, it works because now these industries go, okay, well, we got to go ahead and no longer represent this individual. And then the boycotts, they work. Now, Cesar was known as a gentleman who would go on fasts.
Yes.
To make a point. And unfortunately, that eventually ended his life in Yuma, Arizona, at the end of his life. But, it does catch up to him, and he did some major fasts. Again, it was his way of protesting the injustices of those workers.
Yeah, Gandhi did something similar as well.
There you go.
And so historically, that's been a method, that has gotten people's attention because then it also creates a martyr, and people don't want the quote unquote blood on their hands. Right.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
The term "si se puede."
Right.
How does that fit into this movement that your dad was involved in and your personal history as well as your cultural perspective?
Well, I'll tell you, man, Dolores Huerta argues she created that.
I have read that multiple times. Yes.
She says that's mine. And by the way, you're welcome, Cesar. She said that once right over here at Cal State San Marcos. It said, look, that if it wasn't for me, that wouldn't have been said. But the idea is, yes, we can. And you heard the latest president, Barack Obama, use that because he knew what it meant to the Mexican culture, those original members of field working companies. And so that became a trend. And so now, instead of saying, yes, we can, you say, yes, we did. Si se pudo, right? Because you did it. So yeah, that's where that phrase came from, is Dolores Huerta even though it's really claimed under the UFW and that union. Really, she claims it was hers. And she does it in jest, by the way. It's not, a copywritten patent situation. She does it, laughingly and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so how does that fit into your cultural perspective?
Well, I'll tell you, it's funny because, you could say that I guess you could say I'm pro-union. To be honest with you, because I'm rooted in that. I'm rooted in fair labor practices. I'm rooted in making sure that people get what is owed to them based on their work and performance. To be honest with you, the work that we're in right now, you see the actions around that. If you take a step back and you see what we're doing right now at Epiphany Prep, you'll see that a lot of those actions are there.
All right. And so let's take it to another level. Do you believe that today's Latino or Latinx youth should value that term, that phrase, si se puede?
Yeah, and I think they don't understand where it came from. They got to remember that this came out of blood, sweat, and tears and lives. People losing their life. Workers were killed and never heard from again. And Cesar wanted the sheriff departments up in the Northern California area to bring attention, the governor to look into it, and never was. So it was a term that shouldn't be taken lightly, and people should understand where it comes from. Just like when we speak about Martin Luther King, we think about, I've been to the mountaintop, we have a dream. Do we really understand what he was saying when he said it? And what it all meant for the community and the culture at that time, that now I think it's not taken for granted, but it's just folks need to do more research.
Yeah. To have a better understanding of where it fits into the history and the culture.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of movement going on today. And it's almost to the degree, much like I Have a Dream, where it's become almost like bumper sticker speak.
Mm-hmm.
Where people just slap it on everything, as opposed to really indoctrinating young people into where this comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that you posed it and stated that they need to do more research. And I think that's one word sometimes we don't talk about when we talk about activism. We don't talk about researching, what it all means and what's behind it.
See, I have a modern perspective on activism. I believe activism is two-sided.
Okay.
This morning I was watching CNN, then I flipped it to Fox News.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you got to understand the whole picture. You got to understand where people are arguing and what they're saying, and have perspective in the culture. If you just hear one voice, you got to hear all voices, whether you agree with them or not. You got to understand perspective around you.
Yes. So in essence, what you're telling people is they should check out NPR, even CNN, but also get a mix of what are the conservatives saying? What are
absolutely
what are they saying across the aisle, as congressional folks might say? And
if you're conservative, jump over to what you believe is a liberal media.
Mm-hmm.
Take a look at it. I'm all about arguments. I'm good with arguing. Let's just have a fair debate that's balanced and current understanding. And we'll always debate data. My data is better than your data. My data, so on. Well, that's part of the debate. But let's be grounded in two sides of the story. You look at my Facebook account. I got friends of mine who are conservative. I don't unfollow them. Why would I do that? You got to see both sides. Now, if they get all out of crazy, start acting crazy, and I have certain values, and that's different. But my conservative friends don't act crazy. They have things I disagree with strongly and emotionally, but why would I do that? I'd rather have a conversation with them in person than debate them on Facebook.
Wow. And so if you do that, right, you can readily admit that you have friends, right,
Yeah.
in different circles,
Yeah.
right, that have something else to offer, other perspectives.
Yeah, and my job isn't to convince them to come to my side. My job is to understand where they're coming from.
Wow.
You got listen. It's we can't all be on an island, and just decide to make it our own. I mean, we got to learn to work with each other, man.
Yes.
But then there gets to a point, where it's like, what did Malcolm say? By any means necessary. Is that what Malcolm said? Yeah.
Yeah, I actually got it from Frederick Douglass, but
there you go.
It rings true. And when people take numerous avenues. So Dr. V, I want to throw a question at you that one of our students shared with me.
All right.
Estella, she asked, and she wanted to ask this online too. She said, I was wondering how his experience with Chavez has influenced his career path.
Well, you're looking at me, right? I mean, I'm sitting here working in the community, right? Community Latino folks. You see me working with the students who are incarcerated, and there's something that pulls me there.
Mm.
I get pulled to do things. So it has influenced me greatly. Greatly, it's influenced me. And I know that you'll find people argue in administration. They hate unions. They love unions.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the middle. I love it when it works, and I hate it when it doesn't.
Yeah.
And the unions were meant to make sure workers were supported and cared for. But when it gets to the other side, you got to step back and go, wait a minute. You know what? How crazy is this getting now? Let's rethink this.
Yeah.
So that's why, I'm not a moderate, right? But when it comes to this topic, I am, because I think there's room for everything.
Yeah. And you've seen different sides of it.
Absolutely.
Having been an administrator.
Yep.
Having to start a school.
Yep.
Having to oversee multiple court schools.
Oh, yeah.
From that side. And you've also seen it, watching your dad, Dolores Huerta, and Cesar Chavez.
Yeah. I've seen administrators come in and I go, hey, union person, you got to shut them down. They're crazy. Like, I don't want to be associated with that administrator. Go after him or her. Like, that's a mess. They're going to make me look bad. Go get them out of office, and it's real and it's honest. But, we're so polarized today. Everyone's so ready to attack each other. I witnessed it today. I mean, I was shown the finger today in traffic. I got nearly cursed out by somebody who was pale skinned because we turned the wrong way. I see people honking at each other. I mean, the valve needs to be released.
Yeah, and this is in the context of context of you delivering food to families that are still suffering from COVID-19, correct?
And we're all sitting watching the same TV show, right? The same news, the same politics. We get outside and we want to release that valve. So it's I'll tell you what, it is not going to get better. This pandemic of COVID-19 plus the pandemic of racism, get ready.
Wow.
Get ready, because it's going to come from the other side now. Those that oppose the riots and say, wait a minute, you guys have had your fun. Now we're coming in. It's just society, how it works. So what is our youth doing right now? What are our middle schools doing right now? How are they engaged in conversation to make themselves more intelligent than their partners next to them? They have no reason. Like, I had an excuse back in the day. I had to go to my cousin's house next door to pull an encyclopedia that was, upon printing, was already outdated 10 years. Now, in their fingertips, they got what they need.
And that was what I wanted to get to was, what message would you give the youth? Because the main thrust for this conversation right now is our work with Latinos in Action.
Mm-hmm.
And what would you really want them to grasp as we end the school year, as they get ready to take some time off before coming back to school? But what would you really want them to grasp, these young, Latino leaders, in middle school? What would you want them to grasp? Some even entering high school.
Just because someone said something doesn't mean it's true. Verify it 3 times. Even somebody who you hold with high respect, verify it 3 times. Wow, they said that America is racist. Well, let's confirm. Let's get to 3 resources and find out what that, even this hand signal right here, that's a racist signal, right? That's a racist signal. But guess what? If I do this, you know what this is now? That's the sign of the cross. That's a cross right there. If you've done Catholics, right? Mm-hmm. Those old Catholics understand that. So even that can be taken out of context. So you got to understand that 3 is going to help you get smarter about debating with someone and understanding what it is. But just simply saying, well, I'm angry and that's how I feel. Well, that's great, but that's only going to get you so far. You must do your research. You must understand perspective and logic. So if somebody says something, you got to verify it.
Man, hey, I don't want to take up the rest of your day. I know we got some work to do together later on today. Yes. And I know you've been out, on the road doing what you need to do for Eagle Eats and supporting those families suffering from COVID-19. Somebody doesn't realize there's still an epidemic going on, but there is still an epidemic going on. Yeah. And people, mainly people on the front lines, are suffering from that. And so, thank you for doing that today. And any last words?
Sí se puede.
I really appreciate it, man. This has been a joy. Listen up, everybody. This is how we're going to wrap this up. You heard from the man. You saw images of, history. He reached in his own house and pulled out history. He pulled up legal documents, the flag, everything. And so, hey, this is what we're trying to say, particularly to our students. Listen, you got to respect where it came from. Yeah. And you got to respect and honor that that's not just something to say, that means something historically and culturally. Mm-hmm. Keep it in mind. Keep in mind what he said, what he shared, and keep those images in mind. Be proud of who you are and where you come from. And most of all, just like he said, si se puede. Thank you. Have a great day. God bless.
Thank you.